This is the O Review podcast. O Review.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Oakley Reviews. I've been going through some stuff lately, and I realized that my next thing I was going to review was not actually going to be a pair of glasses like I thought, which was originally going to be the square wire, spring hinge, dark high blue. But I did a high blue lens last week, and two in a row. I'd like to mix it up a little bit. So actually, I was looking at my list, and I have two lists. I have a glasses list, and then I have a list of like everything else Oakley. And I realized that the time bomb actually fit between the things I've purchased. So I figured it'd be nice to bring this out and take a look at this nice piece of watches. I've also been looking through a couple of random things, and I found some catalog trays with some cool stuff. So I'll probably go through this at some point, but I got a lot of old catalogs, some thump teasers, and maybe some eyewear charts and stuff like that. So I'll go through those at some point, but they're kind of cool to look through. Maybe I'll scan some and just make a slideshow or something like that. But what we have here is the Time Bomb, which is a very nice watch. And it came in its own vault. I'll just close that quickly here. So a lot of the newer stuff comes in these nice wooden boxes, but back in the day, they had these really cool aluminum things, which actually are made out of the same material as all the rest of the display cabinets and whatnot. So I'll put that up there. It's the same as these metal vaults here. There's an X metal vault, there's an O matter, just medium vault, and there's also a wire vault, which was kind of cool. These took a while to find because I found these just in a shop somewhere, and they were kind of expensive. It was like $25, $35, and then $45 for the X metal one. If you bought a pair of Scars, you had to buy the X metal one, so you had to pay a little bit more. Looks like it's dated 1995 on this, which is kind of cool. So I've been sitting in the store for a while. But, if you find these, pick them up. They're really cool. They're nice collectibles, and I really think they protect your glasses. People run Humvees over these, and no damage at all. So that's kind of cool. I engraved my name on this one, so totally defeats the value of it, but I don't care. I'm going to keep it forever. All right, so let's take a look at the watch. I'll take out this band right there. Two generations of Time Bombs. There was one with the seamless forged clasp, and then there was one that had sort of a clip that clipped over it, so it had a sort of a raised issue here. If you squeeze these buttons here, it comes apart in two pieces, which are basically equal length from one side to side. On the Generation 2, you had more of a clasp that went around one side as opposed to just parting equally. I just have the titanium model with the carbon fiber face. This thing is dusty as anything at this point. You don't have any numbers around the edge. You just have a date and then hour, minute, and second hand. So, it doesn't have a whole lot of features, but really, if you want just a watch, it's perfect. It just shows you what the time is, and there's not a whole lot more. I don't wear this anymore. I wear the Time Tank now, and that has a ton of timers and whatnot that I'd never use. So I kind of like just having a watch that's real simple. Looking at this now after wearing the Time Tank, this thing looks ridiculously small. Yeah, this thing is really... it's seen some better days. There was some unobtainium right here in the back, which would keep it from sliding around in your wrist because it would get tacky and basically keep it from sliding all around. So, I think my daughter's going to come pay a visit. So the watch has something called the O engine on the back. So instead of using batteries, what it does is there's a weight around here, and as you move around your wrist in normal daily motions, this rotating knob here just falls from side to side. So every time you rotate it, it moves around, and as it moves around, it sort of just recharges a capacitor, which then keeps it going. So if you run low on the capacitor charge here, it actually ends up ticking every 2 seconds just to save electricity. All right, so then what happens is basically it does take a full day or so of manually making sure you keep up on it. I haven't had a problem when I was wearing this daily, never had a problem. As soon as I stopped wearing it, I really noticed that it went downhill pretty fast. But overall, really not bad a piece. So just putting it on, what I like to do is when I put it on, I tend to pinch these clamps here as I push into it. I had a problem when I first got it where I was just pushing the clamps right in, and the little hooks that were catching actually end up getting bent, so I had to kind of pry them back a bit. So what I've done just out of habit is just when I put it on, I pinch that, push it down, it releases the clamps, allows it to go in place, and then it comes back. There's no excess pressure on it. So to take it off, just pinch those again, and then it comes back. And there we go. So this is made out of X metal. Came out in 1998, I believe, which was a year after the X metal started. So it's the same year.
Where'd you get that, Dad?
I got this on the internet.
Oh, Dad, you can bring it here?
I can bring it here.
How you wear it?
You want to wear it? Okay. So this is made out of, like I said, X metal, which is a titanium alloy. And this is just a regular titanium finish, so there's nothing special. These came in some sort of stealth models. Hey. There was polished, there was brushed. There's a lot of different models.
It's zero.
It's a zero, yep. So it's a really cool watch. I wore this from 2003 until a couple years ago when I got the Time Tank. I have a couple other torpedo watches, which I like. Never wore them, though, because I was just afraid the unobtainium band would just fall apart. Plus, they're in nice condition, and if the things I collect, I like to keep pristine. If I'm going to wear something, it's going to end up turning up like this, where it's really beat up. The one major flaw with this is that instead of having a sapphire crystal, it just has glass on this. And since it being one of the first, or actually the first watch that they bought, they didn't have that sapphire crystal, so this thing scratches up like crazy. So every time you bang on something, it's just going to end up getting scuffs. This thing gets scuffs like crazy too. Although you can polish the frame, you can't do so much with the crystal. With the Time Tank, you can hit that thing against anything you want, and there's not a scratch on it. So my Time Tank, hanging up really nice. This thing, not so much, which is kind of the reason I ended up parting with it, or not parting with it, but stopped wearing it. Also, as you wear it, this gap here just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So this thing is really loose. It's losing the stuff behind it. That the unobtainium just pretty much fell right off. Someone on the forum posted recently that the face and the band actually started discoloring differently. So the band ended up become a little bit darker than the face, thus making it not really match perfectly. I haven't had any problems with this one, although this is an earlier one. And this is actually serial number 133, so it's a fairly early model. The reason I got this one is because it came with a vault. A lot of people like to part out the vault, so they'll sell the watch and they'll sell this separately. Bad form, I think, but you know, what can you do? So
we don't like bad guys. They steal our stuff.
So I really like these pieces. Retailed for like $1,500, but you could usually end up getting them for around like $300 in the end. Same one with the Time Tank. Rather, they retailed around $1,200, and you can still get them for quite a bit less. So if you do pick up a piece nowadays, it might be a little bit harder. Probably harder to get one in mint condition. That's probably going to be the hardest thing, because these things, they scratch easily. If anyone wore them, they really wore down pretty fast. Replacing the bands was kind of an issue, because I like the Time Tank where you could just use a hex screw, but this was just based on pins, so you had to pop it out with one side, pull out the band, and then pop the pin back in, and it took, you know, some very small tooling, and it wasn't a big deal, but, you know, I know I had the extra links somewhere. I have no idea where they are now, but it's alright. So really, this kind of perfectly fits my wrist, which is pretty much how I'm keeping it now. So overall, it's a nice looking piece. Really like the styling they've done. You can see there's a lot of design cues from the era it came out. A lot of nice curves. You can tell that they used the computer design CADs to basically plot out the contours and whatnot. So just one last thing. If you pull out this halfway, you can set the date. If you pull it out all the way, you can set the time. So that's kind of how you control the date and time function. Same way with the Time Tank. So it's the same sort of mechanism. So really not much more to say. I really think it's a cool watch piece. It's a nice debut watch that the Oakley has made. So I kind of wish when they did the Time Bomb 2, they came out with a design that was somewhat similar to this. I mean, I love how it's all segmented. It's almost like the plate. But, the fact that the unobtainium is there, it's a nice touch, but I wish they had almost segmented the unobtainium too, because that way you could take out bands, put them back. And it was still, I think it would still have the same amount of grip. It doesn't have to be one continuous piece, but I don't like having to cut things or alter things just to make it fit. It's almost like if you had a half jacket and you had to cut the lenses down to size. It wouldn't make any sense. I like to be able to put things back to a stock configuration if I want to, because after I was done with this, I ended up just putting it back in its case here and then just having it on display. So, even though it's kind of beat up and whatnot, had I taken very good care of this, I would have liked to have had it in pristine condition, but that's okay. I mean, this is a very early piece that I got. It has a lot of memories. I wore this for many years, And, you know, it's a piece that made me happy for a while. So I've moved up to the time tank. I love the time tank. It's a great piece. I probably won't upgrade from that for a long, long time now because I like the fact that I didn't have to buy a battery, but I haven't had to buy a battery for the time tank yet, and I've had it for several years. I heard it has a 5-year battery. I noticed my torpedoes have completely run out of battery, so, you know, those came out in the 90s or so it's probably not a real big shocker. So at some point I'll probably have to replace the batteries, but I'm not in a rush to since I never wear them. I probably should at some point and then just pull the pin out so it saves the battery. But yeah, I would have liked to have an O engine again, just because, you know, this thing will last me forever. Oop. Yeah. It actually came to life as I'm holding this and doing the review. The second hand is coming to life, and you can see it's kind of going into 2-second iterations. I'll get a close up of this and put it in the review so you can see what's going on. You can also see all the nice, lovely scratches in this and how I've really not taken care of this thing too well, but that's all right. So, if you get a chance to pick one of these up, I highly recommend it. If you want to pick up the new one too, that's a nice piece. I just don't like that banding issue, but you know, it's a small nit. If you have really big hands, maybe you won't have to. I don't know. So, I would recommend the time tank though. That's really it's a modern piece. It's not. So I'm going to put these back now. And I will see you all next Sunday. I probably will get to the Square Wire 2.0 review at that point. But I just thought it'd be cool to kind of go over something that wasn't glasses related. So, until next time, take care. Thanks.